What would you do if you found yourself exiled from your home world, your point of origin? Imagine being cast out, not from a country, not from a planet, but from an entire universe. That's what happened to the beings we call Dracos. They found themselves here in this universe, traumatized, displaced, fighting for survival, and pissed. What would you do? How would you begin to recover what was taken, what was lost, and what is now forbidden? What would your trauma response be to such an extreme experience? The Draco Star Beings carry some of the most complex and misunderstood of all beginnings. The Dracos are definitely a hot and highly debated topic. So who are the Draconians? And I mean the original beings. Hey, I'm Kellie, and today we're doing something a little bit different. In this video, I won't be covering the Galactic Astrology pieces, meaning I'm not doing the house breakdowns for Draco Thuban or Draco Etamin lineages. This video is about context. I'm sharing a few insights that have been channeled recently, either during client readings or in the process of making the Draco video series. This is the deeper story that helps everything else make sense. The core topics we'll cover today are dimensional displacement, the core Draco wound, the first split, which I call pheromone splicing, which was Thuban's survival response, then lucid imprinting, which was the adaptive response by the Etamins, blind spots, the karmic timeline split, so important details for Draco Starseeds that are currently incarnated, integration and healing, and Starseed Community Project. We have a lot of pieces to weave together today, so be sure to watch to the end because your voice on this topic is very needed right now. Also, be sure to check the description or pin comment below for the current freebie or promotion or discount or other offerings so that you stay up to date and keep your toolkit stocked. Studies in human psychology tell us that in early tribal societies, acceptance by the group meant survival, and rejection meant death. That's traumatic for an individual psyche. Now imagine that trauma imprinted on an entire soul group, an entire species. The beings that were expelled from their homeworld were known as something else in their original environment. We call them Draco beings because they either landed or ended up in the constellation we call Draco. Simply put, they're called Dracos because that's how we label things. It would be like if I'm born in America and relocate to Australia and say become a naturalized citizen. I might eventually be called an Aussie. At least I think that's how it works. These fierce and powerful predator beings were all of the same core lineage when they first arrived. Think of them as landing in or around the fixed star Thuban first, allowing us to categorize the original group as Draco Thubans just for simplicity. The beings that came from another universe started here as one group unified by shared trauma and fortified by the common purpose of survival. They were clearly well equipped for this, given their superior size and strength. What followed in the wake of their exile had devastating ripple effects on the beings in our universe, from manipulation to violations of free will to genetic experiments and torture. Yet within this chaos, masking as controlled dominance, something grew from deep within the despair. The first beings they experimented on were their own kind, fellow reptilians. It was a strategic decision carried out with tactical precision and cruelty. I don't know the extent or catalog of just how many variations of experiments were conducted, but I've glimpsed some of the genetic modifications they made. It's intense. And one experiment in particular changed the trajectory of the entire species. Here's where it gets interesting. This is the piece that explains how Etamin emerged, becoming a separate lineage. While preparing for this video series, I tried to track down the original story that I heard about the Dracos being exiled from another universe. No luck, but I came across a single sentence in a book that sparked a flood of channeled insights. The sentence was simple. They have a foul, pungent smell, an odor that is designed to weaken its opponent in battle or repel enemies. That's it. That's all it said. As I read those words, my mind was flooded with information that wasn't in the book. Here's what came through. Pheromone splicing, creating a pungent odor that disrupts the nervous system. Generations of a species conducted selective pheromone splicing between the different classes or caste systems of a population, literally breeding a natural, quote-unquote, superior subordinate response within a population. Within the Thuban system, they conducted what I just call pheromone splicing experiments. They genetically engineered a dominance response through biochemical scent, not just unpleasant, but biochemically compelling submission. Over countless generations, they selectively bred this trait to create a natural superior/subordinate response. If you've ever wondered how control systems become so deeply embedded, this is one example. Literal genetic programming for hierarchy. Think about it. Have you ever been skunked or had a pet that got skunked? If you're not sure what that is, then it hasn't happened to you. Fun fact, it smells like burning rotten gasoline. Just a couple of months ago, our dog, my roommate's dog, was outside about 10:30 at night, and she got glazed just enough. I don't think it was a direct shot to the face, poor thing. Pobrecito. Oh, but it got her side, and I didn't know it happened. I was in my room, smelled this. I'm like, what is that? Is the sewer leaking? Is the sewer back up? Is it a gas leak? So finally, after a couple of minutes, I walk out in the living room and I ask my best friend, I'm like, what's that smell? She goes, you know what that smell is? I'm like, oh no. Needless to say, it was an all hands on deck family shower, and I don't mean the fun kind. Ugh, anyway, that overwhelming, nauseating smell that makes you physically recoil, like the skunk, it's a biological response you can't override. True story. And while the skunked dog definitely disrupted our activities for the night, it didn't disrupt our nervous systems, not like the Draco pheromones. But here's what the original Thubans didn't anticipate. When you create that level of control, the ones being ruled must adapt to survive. And that adaptation was the birth of the Etamin lineage. Over time, as the Draco Thuban beings expanded and evolved, the pheromone splicing created an unexpected split within the group. One side became pheromone dominant, so the original Thuban beings, their biochemical signature reinforcing their authority and control. The other side becoming pheromone deficient, so the Etamin lineage. And in losing the ability to dominate through scent, something remarkable emerged. The reduction in one group's ability to dominate unexpectedly produced in them the ability for discernment. Then a chain of events was set in motion that would reshape what it meant to be Draco. Lucid imprinting isn't the only gift developed by the Etamins, but it sure is one of the most interesting. Think of lucid imprinting as the intersection of mental projections and cloaking. And since Etamins are, at their core, also Thubans, this ability remained intact. It was not interfered with during the pheromone experiments. The Etamin lineage taught themselves how to turn this original Draco gift into a benefit and then weaponized it for their own safety. I use the term lucid imprinting because it reminds me of lucid dreaming, where you can control or influence your dreamscape from within it. By the way, let me know in the comments if you lucid dream or experience lucid dreaming as well. I'm super curious to hear other people's experience of this. Picture this. You find out that some Thubans are planning to raid your village the next day, so you and your friends gather to create a protective hologram. You discuss the details of this imprint, this hologram, so you're all on the same page, and then you begin creating a morphic field to match the details. As a group, you construct and then project this mental distortion over the village, focusing the most concentrated area around your healer, the one that they intend to come and take. Then you extend this morphic field forward into the timeline. Obviously, there's more to it than that, but I think you get the idea. Something to understand about this process is the closer in time the imprint is to the actual event, the more effective it will be. And also, the more specific and accurate their intel, who would be there, when, and for how long, the more effective this lucid imprint will also be. Lucid imprinting didn't happen overnight. This gift took generations to develop and refine and enhance. It was a skill discovered and developed in the blind spots. It was taught at first. Then it was handed down through practice until it became a genetically inherited trait. Here's how that happened. The Draco Thubans were so accustomed to instilling fear in those around them that they just expected this response. And if they did get any pushback, it usually wasn't a match for their physical strength and force. Since the Thubans were masters at controlling through dominance, they began to automatically expect this outcome from just about every situation and encounter. The Thubans were banking on conditioned compliance of anyone they intended to rule or dominate. This expectation created blind spots, while the survival of the Etamin lineage required something else entirely. By this point, the Etamins were far enough removed from their aggressive and violent compulsions that they just had to evolve in another direction. Because of the pheromone splicing, the Etamins couldn't defend themselves in the same way, meaning they couldn't fight fire with fire. The game was now rigged. The Etamin's hormone expression was subservient to Thuban's genetically manipulated dominance. So they developed new levels of awareness as a survival response. By developing the ability to feel what others intended, to sense the truth behind Thuban's mental projections and pheromone control, Etamins could anticipate, adapt, and protect themselves. Over time, the Etamins sat anxiously in the shadow of Thuban's arrogance, in that space between fear and fortitude. And during states of suspended anxiety, they developed intuitive discernment, such as heightened intuition, heightened sensory awareness, empathic attunement, the ability to feel intentions beneath the projections, perception that could pierce mental illusions, and clairalience, which is clear smelling. You probably have heard of the four clairs: clairvoyance, clairaudience, claircognizance, and clairsentience. So clairalience is clear smelling. What's so cool to me here is that their empathy wasn't weakness. It was their strength hiding in plain sight. Empathy and compassion accelerated their path, and it became their evolutionary advantage. Hear that again. Empathy and compassion became their evolutionary advantage. Empathy was its own jurisdiction beyond the reach of Thuban's predatory grasp. Empathy walked a very narrow path between danger and deliverance for the Etamins, and it was worth the risk. One of the primary Etamin gifts that emerged in these blind spots was the ability to cloak themselves. They learned to cloak their energy completely, to become invisible when needed. With deep dedication and practice, the advanced level of this gift is the ability to cloak one's entire family within a shared environment. So extending their energy fields out to protect the group within close proximity. And because the primary purpose of Thuban's pheromone-splicing program was designed to override the systems of those that they ruled, it created these blind spots in the Thuban's perception abilities. Etamins took advantage of this unintended blind spot and furthered their gifts within the cracks of this experiment. They developed lucid imprinting, which we already touched on as the ability to influence future timelines through visionary work. But most importantly, they leaned into their compassion. By feeling the pain of the original Draco exile wound, even in their Thuban oppressors, the Etamins chose a different response. Not retaliation, not more dominance. Self-defense, yes. Protection, absolutely. But rooted in empathy, not aggression. Etamins could feel the pain of the Draco karmic wound because they carried the same original wound of exile and had the compassion for their Thuban cousins. This is the evolutionary turning point. This is what I want you to really understand about their story, because this is the part that matters most. Empathy was their game changer. And if you truly understand this, then it can be yours as well. Now that you understand the Draco origin story and the split between lineages, let's talk about why this matters for Draco Starseeds incarnating right now. This little piece comes directly from many client sessions over the last few years. I'll use the following two phrases to differentiate the timelines: karmic resolution and karmic continuity. When we integrate the shadow aspects of our ancestors as well as our past incarnations, what remains are the gifts. When we perpetuate the mistakes and lower choices of our ancestors as well as our past incarnations, that karmic thread continues through us and our lineage. Regardless of which Draco lineage you have in your chart, Thuban or Etamin, Draco Starseeds incarnating right now, helping to clear the karmic imprints and trauma for themselves as well as the collective. Obviously, Dracos aren't the only star family doing this, but the difference is the karmic timeline split happening for the Draco beings specifically because of this clearing. It's like a reset for the souls that are participating. Simply put, the things that you do to be or become a better person in this life and to consciously integrate the shadow aspects help clear your personal karma from lifetimes within the Draco system. That's karmic resolution. And moving forward, so long as you don't regress or repeat those past actions, you create no new karma for yourself through your Draco lineage, and you leave no further ancestral karma to clear in your current biological family line. With karmic resolution, you move forward along the new timeline, along with the gifts and skills you learned during your Draco incarnations. And most importantly, just remember, those who are choosing the new ways are not adding any further karma to the current or future incarnations. So to recap, elevated choices equals new timeline. Old choices equals old timeline. Super simple, right? So why does this history matter? Well, because both lineages are incarnating on Earth right now to heal themselves as well as the collective. Thuban souls are learning things like, I can be myself and be accepted. This involves healing the exile wound. Authority can be earned through integrity, not just inherited, and true power comes from service, not control. And Etamin souls are learning things like, I'm not responsible for what Thuban did. My gifts arising from oppression didn't make them illegitimate. I can be visible without shame around my Draco lineage. And empathy is strength, not something to apologize for. The core teaching here is that we adapted differently to the same trauma. And at this point, it's just unproductive to stay stuck in the narrative of who did what first and how long should I hold this grudge. I feel like if you have connections to any of the Draco lineages, there's a good chance you've earned your stripes on both sides of the blame game. It's just time to move beyond this karmic pattern for both the Draco Thubans and the Draco Etamins. Both responses were survival strategies, and both need integration right now. They carry what I call the double rejection wound. They feel rejected by Thuban for being different, meaning empathically sensitive in a culture of dominance, and then again, rejected by others simply for being Draco. So guilt by association. This creates patterns of hiding, overcompensation, and apologizing for your existence. All of this will be covered in more detail in the Draco Etamin video that follows this one. If you've already watched the Draco Thuban video covering all 12 astrological houses, now you have the historical context for what's coming next, the Draco Etamin video, where we'll explore the empathic oracles and guardians through all 12 houses, their unique gifts, their specific challenges, and how they're here to demonstrate that compassion can arise even in the most unexpected lineages. Okay, your turn. What do you think the difference is between exile, abandonment, and rejection? And how do you think this plays into the Draco history? Drop a comment below, and remember, humanity is a group project, so thanks for doing your part. And while the skunked dog, poor thing, pobrecito. A couple of months ago, our dog was out about 10:30 at night, and she got glazed just enough. They got her whole side. Poor thing. It was a strategic decision carried out with tactical precision and cruelty. I don't think it was a direct shot to the face, but it got her whole side. What followed in the wake had devastating ripple effects on the skunked dog, from manipulation to violations of free will to genetic experiments and torture. Yet within this chaos, masking as ghastly, something grew from deep within the despair. What is that? I don't know the extent or just how many variations of skunked dog, but I've glimpsed some of the genetic modifications they made. It's intense. A smell that makes you physically recoil, like the skunk. It's unpleasant. True story. It disrupted our nervous systems. Not now. Sewerly, ghastly, and it's intense. Lord. Needless to say, you know what that smell is. There you go.